well. We have a quorum. And could we get a motion for the approval of the regular meeting of November the 28th?
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Are there any corrections, additions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Items for consideration. P1, Ordinance 6-0-12, granting a special use for a child daycare center at 1629 Orrington Avenue. Zoning Board of Appeals and the city staff recommends the adoption of Ordinance 6-0-12, granting a special use permit for the operations of a child daycare center by Bright Horizons Family Solutions at 1629 Orrington Avenue. Is there a motion? It's been moved and second. Are we having
Yes, we have
a presentation then? I don't know. Nobody gave me a sign-up sheet. Is there a sign-up sheet? Sorry. To see if there are any speakers. Okay, then you sign in, okay.
Alderman Holmes, this is to my right here, Debbie Brown, who is representing the applicant, Bright Horizons, who will make a brief presentation.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you much for allowing me to make a few comments this evening about our proposed project at 1629 Orrington. We have been working with the hospital and the Evanston community for quite a few years. We operate a child care center for them with a wait list very long for about 200 children. So we have been focused on developing a project to serve the additional families in and around the downtown Evanston area for quite some time. So we're excited by the opportunity presented us at the Orrington site. Our plans that I'm going to present, I'll be brief as I know you've had quite a ream of paperwork already provided to you. We are going to be developing the 1629 space for child care for children 6 weeks up to age 6, those children who have late birthdays that will go off to school following their 5th birthdays. We will provide full and part-time child care for approximately 308 children. We will have on-site kitchen food service and such provided. We also will provide ballet classes and things of that nature for families that are interested. Our plan is to have the center operate weekdays, Mondays through Fridays, from basically 7 in the morning until 6:30 in the afternoon, and we will be closed on the federal holidays and such. Our program will offer jobs to approximately 58 people. That will be including our staff, teachers, and administrators, and we will obviously provide them with full benefits and such. And involved with us will be the university as well, the hospital, as we do have relationships with them, and also the program will be available to the community as well. We have, in putting our plans together for development of the 1629 site, we worked with the landlord, and we have plans to take a good portion of that facility. Our plans do involve a complete renovation of the space, just approximately 26,000 square feet. We estimate about $5 million is going to be spent upgrading the facility. We will have all new systems. Elevator will be completely updated, and all mechanical upgrades and such. And most all of the opportunity, wherever we have opportunity to include in some of the sustainable building products and such, we will certainly do that, as it is our intention to try to meet the city's Green Initiative program. In the exterior of the space, we do plan to add a double entry door and such into the children's space. And the landlord, we have worked with them so that the space on the ground floor level adjacent to Orrington will be maintained for retail, and they will be looking to do new storefront, new windows and such for those retail tenants. And we will be bringing application for signage that will be consistent with that which was previously there. Most notable about the project is the addition of the children's play area. We will have a space on the ground level for the infant and toddler children and a space on the rooftop for the preschool, the 2s and preschool age children. And we will obviously take steps to make sure that the safety of children is paramount. And we will also do our best having planter boxes and adding greenery and such as well to those playground areas. Our timeline is quite tight, as it is our goal to be open by this September. So we do hope to be under construction by April, and then we will need almost a full month to do move-in and set up and licensing. Our design considerations, we certainly, as I mentioned, gave real priority to maintaining the retail spaces. We knew that was important, as well to maintain all of the landscaping and open area that is there. We're not going to be impeding on the planter box or anything that I know is obviously recently been done and quite an improvement to that area. What attracted us to this site was the accessibility and such provided by the parking lot that was there. Traffic coming in from both Church and Davis will access the will access the alley into the surface parking lot that's right there. We will have dedicated parking then provided. We also will provide stroller storage, as we know that is a key requirement for many families that are pedestrians that also use Metro, because we offer many child care centers that are obviously situated in similar situations. Excuse me. We will be maintaining the dock. That was another of the amenities that we thought was really paramount to our use for services, not only to the child care center, but for the future retail tenants as well, the bank. And we have defined a walkway that will be made available to the families coming from the parking lot where the drop-off will primarily happen. On the detailed site plan, you can see I've put numbers in the parking stalls. We have an agreement with the landlord where we will maintain access to 14 dedicated parking stalls in the service lot. And the arrow where the entry is shown to the double doors, children will come in from the parking lot and travel right to the entry. So we felt like it offered quite a lot of security opposed to some of the other sites that we were looking at. Similarly, we have included with the landlord access to the garage for staff parking and additional drop-off parking for those families with small children that want to get out of the elements and such. So there will be some dedicated parking in the garage as well. My last slide is a concept drawing that is intended to give you somewhat of a snapshot of the project. We will be developing the rooftop playground, as I mentioned, with planter boxes and such, and the intent is to develop it in and around the existing HVAC structures so as to minimize the amount of movement that we have to do with those. We will incorporate into the elevator cab. The elevator will be extended to the rooftop, and the elevator cab we will include both storage as well as a child's restaurant, so those children that do need to use the restroom during playground time will have that available to them. We're excited about the project. We think it brings a real amenity to the community of Evanston, certainly does expand services to two of the largest employers here, and we certainly hope that you'll give it real consideration. Thank you.
Alderman Fisk.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the presentation. I think it's well thought out. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, so if you'd stay up here just for a second. You say that you have an ongoing relationship with the hospital and Northwestern University. Do you give preference then to the children of the employees of those institutions?
We will give preference to the university families for a minimum of 60 spaces that the university has requested be available. To the hospital, they will be on a separate priority, and then we will keep wait lists third for the community.
So for community members, you didn't say how many? 60 for the university?
The only priority is 60. All the rest of the spaces will be on a first-come, first-served basis. We will obviously maintain waiting lists from the community as well.
Okay. And you operate the daycare center on Central Street across from the hospital right now?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Do you want to hear these speakers before we get into our discussion, or you want to go ahead with your question now, Melissa? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Can you tell me, I read the materials, and you say that you have a capacity for 308 children. What's the distribution among the age groups that between? What's the youngest age?
Primarily, we focused on infant and toddler children because that's where we know there is the most demand. We basically took all of the space on the ground floor. Youngest of children have to be located on the ground floor. So of the space that was available to us, we maximized the number of infant and toddlers we could serve. So we will be serving 98 children of the 308, which is all we can fit into the space that we have on the bottom floor. Then on the second floor, we will serve the preschool-age children and the toddler-age children. We'll have approximately 70 children. Then that will be the 2-year-old ages. And just as a matter of reference, what's important is that you have pipeline for children. If you imagine bringing in a group of infants in a short period of time, they become 1-year-olds, they become 2-year-olds, and so you have to be able to accommodate those children as they age up in the program accordingly. And so we have sized each of those capacities in that way.
So, so for instance, you have about 78 spaces for 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds?
Yes, and then the remainder will be for the 4- and 5-year-olds. And in fact, if you put the slide back up, number 1, if you go back to slide 1, there's an outline. There you go. 48 infants, 50 toddlers, so those are the 1 to 2s. Then the 72s, the 80 preschool, and the 60 junior K and kindergarten.
I did look at that. I'm sorry, I missed reading that. Mm-hmm.
And we will have flexibility in the way that the rooms will be designed to, so that we can respond to demand if we do find that we have more demand for one age group over another within the 2s and up. We will have some flexibility there.
How many children, or what size is your facility up on Central Street? I know where it is, but how many children are there?
It's about 84 children right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Alderman Fisk?
Thank you. You said that you would be closed on federal holidays. What about Saturdays and Sundays?
Yes, we typically are closed on weekends.
Do you, in reading through the material, I didn't see anything about subsidized care, low-income families. What are your plans for that?
At our current facility now, we do take subsidized children. We have about 15 to 20% of the children currently enrolled are on subsidy program. We do have intentions of also offering that service, but we're also sensitive to the fact that we've had some conversations with a few of the nonprofit groups that may very well be a clientele that they would prefer that either we not serve and leave to them to serve or not. So we do intend to have some conversations about that. If the intent is to limit the number of spaces, as we have heard that there is some concerns about that.
In looking at the material, I saw that you had met with the Y and with the hospitals, but I didn't see. Have you met with Child Care Network?
We talked with them today.
Oh, okay. So that we wouldn't have had that information.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Alderman Fisk?
You are for-profit, correct?
We are for-profit.
Any other questions? Okay, well, there may be other ones later, but thank you.
I won't
Ms.
go
Brown.
anywhere. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Brown. Well, we have speakers. Gerard Risky. Either mic, name and address, please.
Tanad Risky. I support this use. I was actually getting my hair cut and looking at it across the street, and I think it's a fine use. It utilizes as a building that has basically been vacant for 10 years. The businesses along the street are suffering greatly. My only issue, though, that I came up with as I was looking at this whole thing is I walked across the street and I noticed the parking ramps there basically have rail that would not meet the current building codes today. And they're spending significant capital to do this, so I think a small amount of money could be allocated to fix the railing at the parking ramps here so children would not fall through the ramps, and actually they could fall and get hurt. And that would be any child that really was walking along the street, because you don't have proper rail there. A child could go through the rail on all those ramps. So the city really should consider tacking that on to the special use as a requirement that they upgrade those rails. Given they're going to spend $5 million, a little bit of money to fix the rails is minimal to the whole thing. And I think I support it. I also don't think, the one thing I do that I've sort of heard here, and it's sort of here on the website basically, there's some thought here that they should be not to compete with the not-for-profits in town. Well, I mean, frankly, they should compete with the not-for-profits. They should compete with everybody because residents are consumers, and we want good quality care for everybody. I don't have young children, of course, any longer. My children are adults, but we should have good quality care for consumers and not worry about the not-for-profits that could go out of business if they're not providing good service. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brown, I assume you don't want to speak again, do you? Okay. Stephen Geller? Okay, thank you. I think this is Cheryl Katz.
I am Cheryl Katz. I'm Executive Director of Evanston Day Nursery. And I want to say that the opening of a new center will be of value to the community. There is a need for infant care. However, I would like to address to the Planning Commission that the scale of the project might be something that needs to be considered. Research on high-quality care for children, support to the environment for children is a critical component of quality. And it's essential that the size of a program not be overwhelming to extremely young children, especially infants and toddlers. And they need to feel comfortable in that space. You're talking about a program of 308 infants and toddlers up until 3s and 5s. You have elementary schools here that are smaller than this proposed school. The center is larger than some of the school enrollments that you have had in District 65. And that is dealing with children that are 5 through age 12. And so I think I would like you to just consider what it might feel like for a child who is part of a drop-off and pickup with that volume of children coming in and out, and that this number of children that they're actually serving in that space may be a very intense use for young children and families at that very vulnerable point of their first experiences of group care. In addition, one of the things that we talk about at the National Association for the Education of Young Children is that it isn't about even ratios, it's about the absolute number of children that are in a space. Evanston is in a community that is very sensitive to having proper ratios of space and living arrangements. You have rules about how many unrelated people can live in a house. And here we are putting very young children in a setting which is larger than some of what you are providing for your children who are much older. So I would just like you to consider that when looking at this project, you take into account that this is a very large project for child care. When you look at research about quality and they make references to what a large program is, the number that they usually use is between 150 and 160. This program is double that. So I would just like you to take that into account when you're thinking about high quality and the needs of the children and families in our community, and what it's going to mean for that number of children to be coming and going and being in that kind of space in a downtown environment. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else who wanted to speak on this and sign up? Okay, just come to the mic and...
I'm sorry, I actually did sign up as being rated by my name.
Oh, okay, so you're Sonia
Sonia
Costa. Okay.
Good evening, and I'm Sonia Costa, and I'm the Vice President, Branch Executive Director at the McGaw YMCA. And first of all, I want to say I'm terribly surprised to hear that I was discussed in this matter, because I have never heard from Bright Horizons, and we have never discussed this, which really makes me uncomfortable. I still want to say we are always very happy with a person who wants to enter into this field, because there is a great need for childcare in Evanston. The YMCA, however, have kept a waiting list over the last 6 years, and our waiting list is extensive for infants, toddlers, and twos. And I am very concerned about the smaller people, like my other non-for-profit colleagues, who do start
at the ages of 3, 4, and 5, because as Bright Horizons explained earlier on, if you do have the feeding from a very young age, that the children start at the ages of an infant at 6 weeks, which the Y provides, then you definitely have the infiltration of the children later on. And there has been a study done to say that there will be an oversupply for 3 to 5-year-olds in Evanston currently, and that is about by 140 spots. So I definitely just want to bring this out on the table, that I definitely feel there is a great need for infants, toddlers, and twos, but we all know that the business module is not always very good because of the very low ratios. And I am standing in front of you today to say that the Y actually worked with DCFS over the last 6 months because we wanted to come to the city to open a satellite, but only for 48 children, to be able to provide the care that we have really come to know over the last 6 years that is a great need, and that is for infants, toddlers, and twos. So I want to reiterate what one of the earlier speakers said. We would like you to really look at whether there is a need and whether there will be oversupply. I think it will be sad that people who served this community for 125 years and more will go out of business because of this very large endeavor. I am running a center where we also have over 300 children, but it is also an after-school program where children come to us at the Y after school. So I just would like to bring all that out on the table, and I fully agree. That is why the non-for-profits do get accredited by NACI, because we do not want to stand back for good quality. Bring on the competition. We want to be the best, but I would like to urge all of you to just look at the real need in Evanston. And I can provide all my waiting lists that I reiterate definitely for infants, toddlers, and twos, but I cannot see the need, and speaking to my other colleagues. And what I'm really disappointed in is that I was told tonight that I was contacted, and I have never been contacted by Bright Horizons. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other questions, comments? Ms. Brown.
I sincerely want to apologize. The contact with the Y, we understood, came through the university. They are the partner that we are working with, and they informed us that being a partner with the Y, they had explicitly talked with the Y about the child care center that was proposed, and we assumed that they had done so. My sincere apology.
Alderman Nguyen.
I'm sorry. I'd like to ask Mr. Griffin about the standards and that the committee has the ability to apply in terms of the question that was just raised, in terms of what we can look at as a committee when we evaluate a special use. And the question in terms of whether for a special use, there are about 6 standards that the council looks at. Whether there is an appropriate need or not is not one of those standards generally. So, and whether there will be competition or not is generally not a standard that we can apply either. I used to know them off the top of my head, but so in terms of the committee saying to Bright Horizons that they have to limit a particular program because it will have a negative impact on some other business, that's not something that the Planning and Development Committee has within its purview. You know, that's not something that we can do. But we look at other issues in terms of whether there's a negative cumulative impact from other, but negative meaning that, for instance, there are too many fast food stores, which would create too much litter or too much traffic, but not too much competition. So that's generally what our position has been on these things.
Mr. Griffin?
And Alderman Wind is quite correct. You'll find the standards basically on page 281 of your staff report, and what they list out is for your consideration is the use, one that is listed as a special use in the zoning district in which the property lies. Two, it complies with the purposes and policies of the Comprehensive General Plan and Zoning Ordinance. Excuse me. Three, does not cause a negative cumulative effect in combination with the existing special uses or a category of land use. In other words, is it a fit or jamming too much land use and development in a particular block? Four, does not interfere or diminish with the value of the property in the neighborhood. Next, is adequately served by public facilities and services. Next, it does not cause undue traffic congestion. Next, it preserves significant historical and architectural resources. And the last two, preserves significant natural and environmental resources. And finally, complies with all applicable regulations. So this is a land use decision that's before the Planning and Development Committee. We think as a staff it kind of helps round out and keeps the downtown at a marketing edge, an attraction of office workers and the retail workers, and them being attracted there, and their workers being able to bring their young children, have an opportunity to spend lunch with them before and after work. So for all those reasons, we feel it meets these standards and would recommend approval.
I'd like to ask Ms. Brown one more question. I'm sorry, only because Ms. Costa mentioned that NACI, is your facility on Central Street certified by NACI, or are you a part of NACI?
We are a part of NACI, and most all of our facilities that are eligible, approximately 80% of them are NACI accredited now.
Great. Fantastic. Okay.
I think you have one more.
We have a little time. Go ahead.
Do I need to say my name
State
is
your
Martha
name and your address.
Arnson, and I live at 1023 Simpson Street in Evanston, and I thank you for this opportunity to give public comment. I just want to address the comment about competition and the need for high-quality early care and education. And one of the earlier speakers talked about the competition with nonprofits and how if they're not high quality, then consumers should have a choice. And I would just like to say that the programs we're talking about are all accredited by NAEYC, our national accreditation. It's a voluntary accreditation, and it is the highest hallmark of quality on a national level. And I do not believe that the Bright Horizons on Central Street holds that accreditation right now. And then I also wanted to share that, let's see. I'm so sorry. I have to think of, I just lost it.
It happens, Martha.
I just think that while the committee is not, has to address the permission for that zoning variance, there are two nonprofits very close to downtown Evanston, and it's the Total Child on Church in Hinman and the YMCA on Lake and Grove Street, or on Maple, which is within walking distance. I think that the Bright Horizons would be a wonderful asset to our community, especially in the downtown area, and especially for bringing in business and being a tax-paying body and supporting our community. I'm not against that. What I have concerns about is the amount of 3 to 5-year-old slots that will be oversubscribed when you add Bright Horizons 140 and the 116 that we're already, I don't mean oversubscribed, we already have more than enough slots for 3 to 5-year-olds. So I would hope that Bright Horizons might moderate that amount of service for 3 to 5-year-olds. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about was the subsidized families. I appreciate that for-profit centers in our community do accept families with children with low income, and they are subsidized by the state. However, those same for-profit organizations charge the parents the difference between their full tuition and the subsidy that they receive. So while parents are expected by the state to pay a copayment that meets their income needs, the for-profit centers charge beyond that. And I would like to encourage Bright Horizons to consider scholarshiping some of those families so each program in our community does have some diversity. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Wilson? No? Alderman Fisk?
I have two suggestions for amendments, and I'd ask our legal counsel. Can we put a condition on this that the special use run with this operator? And secondly, can we put a condition that it be operated for profit? And
members of the committee, grant for our corporation counsel, Alderman Fisk. It's with respect to the purview of this committee. Those are appropriate amendments that may be suggested and acted upon. They're consonant with the code and the legislative prerogatives, so they may be suggested and acted upon.
So you want to make a motion?
yes, I'd also like to ensure one of my conditions on supporting this, and I think it's a good use to bring into the downtown, was the retention of the retail spaces on Orrington Avenue. I think those are really important. We've talked about those, the loss of retail space when we've discussed other special uses for the most recently on Davis Street. So those are the three areas of concern, that we retain the retail spaces within the envelope of the building facing Orrington, that the use be a for-profit use, and that the special use run with the operator, not with the land. Is that a motion? Yes, that's a motion.
Isn't it? I mean, it is a for-profit group.
Right. I just don't want it to become not-for-profit. Again, my understanding, Corporation Counsel, is that if it were to become a not-for-profit use in the future, that the property owner might be able to claim that portion of the building that was used for nonprofit use to reduce their property taxes.
I would have to look into that issue, and I can come back to council with further information relative to that.
Alderman Wilson?
Yeah, and I don't know that we can impose a restriction on the operator of the use as far as the unused portion of the building. I mean, it's not being used by this operator, but we can't really dictate how that's going to get used in the future. Is there an issue with including a restriction that it be limited to your company as the operator?
The only concern is that we are looking to enter into a 15-year lease with a renewal, and to the extent that we would ever need to sublet and or something would change in a time horizon of 20 years, it could be that there would come a time where we would maybe want to partner with another group, and to have that restriction, we would certainly have to discuss that with the landlord and how we would finalize that agreement in terms of our ability to, sign up for such a long-term lease with this particular landlord. to explain, we've had other facilities where there have come times where we have actually partnered with other organizations to come in and take on certain scopes within the child care center, and at times those have been nonprofit. So that has happened in our past where we have done some of those kinds of partnerships.
I suppose it's conceivable that if you're not making a profit, even though it's your intention to make a profit,
Correct.
the circumstances could change.
That is correct. But it's also in situations where there has been desire to just add a certain level of services that maybe we can't provide, but another group can. So, for example, we have in the past contracted with groups to come in and teach sign language and other things, and those particular groups have been nonprofit.
But that would not have anything to do with the lease. I mean, you would be just like subcontract with them to come in and provide a service, so that wouldn't have anything to do with the lease.
Well, if we're imposing a restriction that the use only be by
for-profit,
then they're introducing a nonprofit use of the space, and that would be in violation of the
correct
of the ordinance.
Well, that's why I asked the question. I mean, we are talking about this being for this particular organization, Bright Horizons, and it's to go with the. It's only the restriction to go with the building. I understood that. That's why I didn't understand why you wanted to have it only for profit, because
I wanted to make sure that the property owner at some point in the future, should the tenant become a not-for-profit, that the property owner wouldn't be able to apply for basically 80% of the building to go off the tax rolls. I want our downtown property to be producing property taxes.
I think the city manager has something to say.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Alderman Fisk, what we could do if the committee is generally supportive of this is to ask the council to introduce. We can work with the applicant. I think I understand Alderman Fisk's issues. I think we just need to work on some language that would be appropriate. So again, Madam Chair, if the committee is accepting of this, would recommend that it be moved to council for introduction, and then we'll work on language before your meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay. So I'm disinclined to introduce it with the amendments at this point, but perhaps if the amendments are appropriate later.
Well, I think the one that is appropriate, that it goes with the special permit would go with this particular organization, rather than. I think that's appropriate.
And if the committee, Madam Chair, wishes to split this and go ahead and add that portion this evening, and then have us come back with additional language in 2 weeks on the balance for the council to consider, that's perfectly fine from a staff perspective.
Director Griffin.
Madam Chairman, on Alderman Fisk's other point about the retaining the retail space on 322, page 322, you'll see the layout. They retain the 2 retail spaces on front. That, for them to expand into that with daycare, would be inconsistent with this application. And Section 3 talks about compliance with the application that they provided. So I think you're covered there. Okay. And that the whole idea, since we've been talking to them, was the notion that we, kind of like you, we wanted that streetscape to have a retail or office kind of use as opposed to the daycare.
Okay.
Okay.
Right,
so
I'd move that we introduce it, and I think it was seconded.
As amended.
I don't feel like I'm disinclined to amend it at this point. I think if we're going to make amendments, we should do that in some consultation so that we have something that is done all at once instead of piecemealing it together.
Okay. When we come back, and is that okay, Alderman Fisk? Okay. All right, then it's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. P2, Ordinance 7-0-12, amending Ordinance 77-0-11, 1100 Clark Street on 1719 Ridge Avenue Plan Development. Focus Development has requested an amendment to the plan development approved by Ordinance 77-0-11 to allow for an extension of completion time from October 1, 2013 to October 1, 2014. Suspension of the rules is requested for introduction and action on January 9th. Is there a motion?
Approval.
Okay. I have no one signed up to speak. Are there any comments? Alderman Fisk.
I'd just like an explanation for the public about why the extension's being requested.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Alderman, my name is Greg Grains from the law firm DLA Piper, and I represent the developer and contract purchaser of the property. As you know, we were here in September, October, got an approval. The ordinance at the time didn't contemplate any additional time periods. We are in for the building permit is ready to be picked up, so we're ready to get going. We're not going to be acquiring the property till later this month. And our construction financing is all lined up. Our equity investor is one of the largest players in the equity field in the U.S., has some concerns, as are we, that if we don't start till February, who knows what's going on with the weather, although now it's great, but if we don't start till February, we might not end up finishing by October of 2013, figure if it's like 18-month project. And so just to make sure we have enough wiggle room, whether it's an extra 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, certainly not, it's not anticipated to be another year, that we just have that wiggle room and don't want to find ourselves in a situation, particularly the equity investor, that, hey, October 1st, 2013 is here, you're out of time, and we all know that's not likely, but that's why we're here, just to have that additional flexibility.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. It's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have no items for discussion. That concludes our meeting, and I think council will begin shortly.